Hey everyone. Tonight with the Open Hearth, we are continuing session 8 of Godkiller. Um, Things are getting serious. Uh, my name is Dana. My friends are he, him. I am running the game. Mads, why don't you introduce yourself, your character, and where we see them this week?
Yeah, I'm Mads, she, they pronouns. My character is Wall, also she, they. And Wall has joined up or found her friend from around the cloisters, Tiresias, and kind of told him sort of what's been going on. And he's that friend that, you don't have to necessarily reintroduce yourself every single time you meet up again, but more like, let's pick up where we left off, which has been good. But she joined his caravan of people to bring goods out west. So she decided on west, and they made their way across this chasm valley like impossible staircase type setup, um, and then she didn't realize it, but she had her divinity kind of like bring out a beacon to the god of this place, which was Vulcan. And he didn't take too kindly to her like crossing his land, his territory, and so she had to sacrifice a little bit of blood to show that she didn't mean any harm, at least not yet. And yeah, cross over, and like now she's with Tiresias's group, entering the city of towers, um, which upon first look looks like there are those that are down below making their way, making a living as best as they can, which doesn't seem very great to begin with. And then those in power who are at the tops of these said towers here. And uh, Tiresias had to pay Wall's way in. So sorry. And yeah, she's got to figure out what she's going to do next. So yeah, that's where we're at.
Yeah, I'm especially fond of that not yet. As take a number, Vulcan. We'll get to you.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, like if he's gonna be on the orphan maker's side, and it's not like she had like a deep conversation with Vulcan to say, "Hey, hey, this is coming. What are you doing?" So uh, yeah, I think that's meta. I mean, it's pretty much a not yet, but for Wall, who knows?
Mhm. So yeah, I think we had kind of said you and Tiresias like know where to meet up, when he finishes his business for the day. And he gave you, I won't say a few pointers, but he told you where you might be able to get work as a scribe or
Mhm.
or something like that. Um, so I wonder when, he uh, veers off towards the marketplace. What do you find yourself doing? What do you look for in order to find a place here?
um, what were his specific suggestions?
Oh, I
Trying
think
to.
he said something like the burgers or the people in power here are fond of sharp practice, where they
Ah,
might
yes.
not do things exactly ethically where contracts or scribing is concerned. So yeah. But that may be a bit of personal bias from Tiresias, right?
Yes, I mean, like, his may not be like always above board, so it's kind of like, I mean, and she could be just completely, ingenuous. I mean, she could just kind of like, okay, sure, but see a lot of corruption. Um, yeah, I mean, I think she's going to take his suggestion first, right? I mean, like, although would she hear the voice of the cave this far out? I don't know. Ugh. Um, that's a very good question. Um, yeah, I think maybe perhaps is there any place like natural here, like kind of like a park or something like that among these towers?
Yeah, I think maybe it's not evident immediately upon entering, but I think this place is, super urban, in a way that, you know, Newbridge wasn't, not even the cloister. And it's not just a matter of scale, it's just a matter of every public space being kind of squeezed for its maximum potential. There's no quiet gardens here because there's nothing quiet. Maybe at the top of the towers
Hmm.
it's quiet, but down here at the ground level, it is noisy and dusty, and there's nothing approaching privacy or, certainly nothing like the shade of a tree.
Hmm. Oof. I think this is probably like overwhelming for sure. Um, yeah, maybe this is more of a feel someone or something out then because I don't think she's going to find a peace enough to be able to pray for guidance. I mean, I feel like what feels dark or unnerving right now, or uh, what do I want clarity on? Sorry. Good question. Is this a place that she can make her way? I guess that's about as clear as mud, but I mean, like that's about as clear as I can ask. Like, is this a place that she can kind of make her way? um, but what feels dark or unnerving is that again, like at this ground level, there's like nothing to see except for noise and dust and hearing like a lot of, um, just cacophony
Yeah,
of people
yeah.
and the crush of buildings, like basically. So, um, yeah.
Um, yeah, so I think you obviously on the face of it, this place is not welcoming. And I think um what is, I guess, strangely welcoming is that, no one really gives you a second glance here. There's people from all over here, both, and that seems to be, a lot of refugees end up here, and they seem to fit in with people who were here before. There doesn't seem to be any real division, not that you can see at least on the surface. Um, and so maybe you've felt this from time to time traveling where, you don't look like you belong. But here it's like, well, you're here, therefore you belong.
Hmm.
Um, but I think one thing you do see, which I don't know, maybe hints at something unexpected that you might find an opportunity is um, one of the towers that you pass by. Um, it has on each of the four corners has gibbets, and hanging from those gibbets are iron cages, and within are in various stages um, gods or the remains of gods.
What? Wow. Um. Oh. She is agog looking up at that and just realizing it's like they are gods, right? Like not just effigies or human avatars. You know what I mean? Like kind of like dressed
Yeah,
up like they're
yeah.
gods. She can tell
Um,
that they're actual gods.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, they are gods that we have not yet named, but I wonder if maybe I'll say the freshest one, even if that is a bit icky, um, you recognize. What tale do you think you have heard that helps you to recognize this god almost immediately?
Is it one of the named ones that we have, or like any just
Uh,
any old
I
god?
I think it's an extra one. I don't think it's one that we have named already. I think those are
Okay.
all out and about and
Yeah.
what live and dangerous, right?
Right. I think what helps the appearance that this is an actual god is that the blood that runs from it is not red blood or dried blood. It's more of like some kind of shimmering oil like material, but I mean, like, it still is iridescent, it's still shining, and it's running down like the side of their helmet and their neck and then down their form, which has it's somewhere between like natural, like of natural material and such, like maybe like antlers as part of their helmet slash head, but also like their body is made of like materials that homes are made of. It's like kind of like a very weird hybrid god that's that's come out of this shift in the river. And yeah, I mean, like, I guess this entity is just in the iron cage, not moving, bleeding essentially, and um, yeah, it looks like maybe maybe a couple of limbs have been torn, but left in the cage to show that you know they're there. But aside from that, I mean, like, conceivably they could survive the tearing of their limbs or their body, but I mean, there's something about it, about how they're bleeding out, that just makes Wall believe, like, they're dead. So, and I think the tale that she has heard is of this smaller god of the hearth, um, usually more found in like the natural environs, like more out in the country, if like that could be said, and you know, one who actually takes vengeance upon those who decide to stray from their village hearth, like very much into you stay where you are because that's where you belong, as opposed to just about the home. So this is a roaming god. This is a god that will you know scares children at night. If you go out after a certain time and you're found by this entity, he will tear you apart. And it's almost ironic for Wall seeing this god being torn apart here in the cage upon remembering that story.
Um, yeah. Um, and do you think this is a story that kind of you just know from the manuscripts, or is it a story that has like a an older resonance with Paul from their childhood?
Yeah, maybe it's something that has gotten passed around near the cloister. Um, and of course, like one of those things that has been in a manuscript, but then been a descriptor more of like, well, here's a collection of fairy tales. Here's a collection of stories from the country. Like that sort of thing, and illuminations of what they think the god looks like, because of course you don't want to be out late to find the god. You want to
Mm.
be safe at home. So yeah, I think that's fair. Maybe there is a thrum of familiarity with this particular entity, but she does not necessarily remember, except for copying some kind of manuscript on the tale.
Um, and like as you behold this dying god, uh, a drop of this shimmering god's blood, hits the dust next to your feet, and I mean, no one takes notice of it. It's just normality for everyone passing by. But one of its eyes opens. I think the other one is kind of ruined. Mm. And it looks at you and says, its voice, I think, is reminiscent of a stag's bellow, but it's hoarse and broken and without any of that power in it or majesty. And it says to you, if you hadn't left, child.
How high up is this cage?
Um, I think you can probably reach, uh, you might be able to reach the cage, but I think maybe one of its limbs is dangling through the cage.
Like reachable in terms
Yeah,
of
reachable, reachable.
she like just moves closer underneath, and I think she just looks up at them, and will, without even realizing that she's doing it, she kind of like reaches up as if she's going to touch. Uh, is this tempting fate? I don't know. This is not perilous, but I mean, she's tempted to touch what, if if she can, for some reason.
Um, yeah, I mean, you don't know if you're crossing a line.
Hmm.
I
Acting
suppose.
impulsively.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, sure, if that's what you want me to do. Emotion that drives confusion. Definitely.
yeah. Is it that you think this God might be able to answer one of those questions you've had, all your life and certainly recently?
Yeah, yeah. I think, yeah, I think because of this familiarity, or like not even just with the story, but I mean also maybe something from her origins that
Mhm.
she does not necessarily remember, except in bits. Uh, yeah, I mean, maybe she reaches up and then tries to see if she can, touch one of the dangling limbs. Um,
Yeah, so
What advantage do you see? Because I always think it's more interesting for you to
trouble to
give
hit
me the
you hard and
trouble.
fast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay. What advantage? Nobody's paying attention to me. Like
Yeah.
everybody's doing their own thing. They're too busy. They're probably like even pushing past me or whatever. But I mean, I'm just very focused on this, and then like reaching up and trying to touch something of them. Or like maybe holding out my hand and seeing any of the shimmering god blood falls out
Mm,
again, and such. Almost like as if she's, again, just touch just seems to be kind of like what she's aiming for.
yeah. Yeah. Um, so do you so do you think you can so be, I guess it was already in play that, people aren't really paying attention to you. Like,
Hmm.
you think you can seize an advantage from this god, or you think you can do something even more impulsively than just to reach out and grab it, like to look it in the eye or to get it to talk some more
Yeah.
because suddenly someone is paying attention to it. Like, what do you think?
Trying to think of. Do we think that we maybe one of the limbs is actually like hanging out of the cage so low that, I mean, it could be like a hand that's kind of just like kind of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
waving in the breeze. I mean, I think
Um,
that's like, she makes as if she's going to like, catch that hand, like, just to touch out of some kind of morbid curiosity.
yeah,
And maybe some of
yeah,
that, some of the blood is actually like, dripping from the hand. So that's another reason why she's like trying to go for it.
yeah. So yeah, I think um, you pull it closer to you, and the cage kind of tilts a little bit towards you, and you get a little bit more give from it, and you end up like looking at this thing directly in its eye. And I think now that you're up close, there is something about this kind of helmet, or maybe the style on its skull, which is half natural, half artificial, which looks, which brings back memories from the north. That looks like, it has inspired some of the actual fashion from that you remember from your childhood.
Maybe there's a pattern on the god's skin that reminds me specifically of the patterns that were drawn or burned into the leathers of some of the clothes.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and I think, yeah, I think the eye gets bright, and you realize at that moment that, maybe what it said before was just something it hurls at anyone who stops, because everyone has this kind of self-doubt in this town about leaving somewhere, leaving home.
Hmm.
But it sees you, and now it seems to recognize you. And I think as soon as its blood touches your skin, you feel it. Burn is too strong a word, but you feel it like fizzle against your skin. And and it, with its broken, mangled hand, grabs yours now, and in this kind of outrageous, at death's door strength, pulls you off the ground.
Fabulous. Oh man. Is it trying to
Weird.
pull me into the cage?
I mean, that's impossible, but like pull you closer so maybe it can do something. Maybe, you know, it's kind of an act of desperation,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
but not
Maybe
to
take
say it
something
isn't
from me.
dangerous.
Right, right, right. Okay. Uh, I think she's going to change. She's going to wield Druidcraft, and I think she's going to change out of her shape, maybe? And then she's going to change into what exactly? Hmm. I think she's going to become a cat. I think again. I think she's done this again. Like she's done this before. Like she was a cat before.
Hmm.
And so this way she can kind of slip out of the grasp and then kind of like bounce into the cage a little bit, if need be. But also, if she has to, she can jump down with no problem.
Sure, yeah,
So, yeah. Okay. So add one for each true statement. I've done this specific act before. I don't know about
yeah.
perfectly, but I mean, she did.
Close enough.
Close enough. All right. And then, desperate for this to work. How is my strain? I don't even know. Do I think it's going to be something that's going to be horrible if it gets too close to me, like if it gets me up near the cage? This is why I'm
Um,
asking for desperation for it to work.
yeah, I mean, I'm inclined to say because now we've established that this thing is kind of, if not local to you, at least has a lot of strong presences in Wall's culture.
Yeah.
Like, I think this brings some, preternatural childhood fear
Okay. Then
to
desperate.
light. Yeah.
Sure. Marking one strain. Okay. And then, close to a shrine, lair, or domain of the god you took this power from. I don't think
I
Baphomet's
think we
here.
are as far as possible on the map from
Yeah.
Bastamov's palace, right?
Sure. Yeah. So +2. All right.
+2, yeah.
Okay. Oh boy. 6 plus 2 plus 2 is 10.
That's sweet overkill.
That's sweet overkill. You have no idea how much I love it, but I also hate it at the same time. It's great. But I mean, like, how do I do an overkill changing into a cat myself? That's the interesting part. I would like to know.
Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah. Let me let me know how this sounds. I think,
Okay.
you turn into this normal house cat, this like
Hmm.
scrawny alley cat, um, and wriggle and claw and do all the things that any sane entity would like let go of you
Hmm.
at this kind of thing. But this
Yeah.
thing is at its this god is at its death's door, and in fact, you don't think that the scratching or the wriggling has any effect. It just starts to squeeze you, and then with your decreased size, it pulls you inside the cage.
Oh, shit.
And I think, it's kind of a panic, right? It's like oh, I need to do more. And I think your that house cat becomes like a giant panther, right? And just eviscerates this god. And like you know the way like a house cat does this back rear paws
Hmm.
clawing, that is
The bunny
exactly what
kicking,
big
yeah.
cats do, right?
Oh yeah.
And I think this struggle, this dying cry of this bellow of the hearth, um, you just like tear this cage asunder, and the this shimmering blood is all over the square. You land on the floor on all fours, obviously, because you're a cat.
Hmm.
And with this snarl, with this divine viscera kind of all over the place, and everyone, I mean, they notice now, right?
Hmm.
Um, and I think they're like everyone is just too shocked, and like this whole cage, this whole gibbet has just fallen over, and this god who was a moment ago on death's door is just gone from this world.
Yeah. Um, can can she see? I mean, again with all these like panther bunny kicks. I mean, does she see the god's heart?
How do you mean the god part?
Heart.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's most definitely gone. Like, the the physical part is destroyed, and I think that shimmering blood though seems there, and maybe there's something, it's like trying, it's kind of instinctual, will is trying to reform itself, but it doesn't have the strength.
Right. I'm asking because it's like I'm thinking that Wall the cat panther, um, if it's big, if there's something big enough, either like the heart muscle or like maybe part of its head or helmet,
Mhm.
she's going to drag it away in her current form and then like
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
run with it somewhere. Not sure exactly where, but like figure it out.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's probably, maybe it's something with that pattern on it, like part of that kind of helmet-esque hovering, uh, that you feel like you want to take for yourself. So
Okay.
yeah, yeah. I think bound up onto some rooftop and then
Hmm.
away, and then you're just gone from sight.
Right. And this is the with the helmet with the signs on it.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Okay, cool. Yeah. So, and I'm sure there's like a silent crowd, and then all of a sudden everybody's like kind of converging and figuring out who's going to clean up this mess. I'm sure, but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I
she's long
mean,
gone.
I won't say it's a hue and cry, but there is definitely like um, a lot of attention, a lot of noise, a lot of stuff going on back at the scene.
Yeah, and I'm sure like she got a lot of the blood onto her fur or whatever as well in the scuffle with a dying body. Oh God. But yeah, I think she's not sure where she's going to run, but obviously she's taken to the ledges or whatever nearby that she can
Mm.
bound onto and then just kind of get away, um, to, I don't know, someplace like less busy or someplace closer to the rooftops. What can cats do? Find their way up.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's what she
Um,
does. Like
yeah,
she kind of
yeah.
like does the bounding and the climbing towards like a close by rooftop or something.
Um, yeah, and I think as you're kind of fight and flight instincts start to die down, you hear this dull clanging, these bells in the distance. Um, and I think there's something, it's not an emergency, it's like a celebration.
Hmm. If Wall does make it up onto a rooftop with this thing, I think maybe, she'll kind of look out and see if she can spot what's going on.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think, you think, you think like you regain your form and your like how much of wall is active when you're in this form? Is it exactly as normal, or is it, some is some other thing um really driving when you're in this form?
Hmm. Maybe it's like kind of partial, like half and half. I mean, like to be able to use the animal form efficiently without having to worry about like, okay, I got to get used to like, not having my limbs work like a human. I mean, like I think, there has to be some sort of instinctual part to this. But then like, in like on the overmind, like there's still Wall kind of driving where to go, what to do,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, I think the part of that is wall, this seems to be like, it's not, it might be unusual, it might be rare, but it is not um still part of normal life, let's say. This seems to be something that happens whenever a god is executed in the city, when they draw their final breath, so to speak.
Because it happen like as she killed the god, as she drew the piece away.
Yeah, um I'm not sure if you would have noticed that it was like, immediately, and therefore almost magical or
Mm.
supernatural, in you certainly noticed it, when you hunker down. Um yeah, I think it's might be too difficult a question to answer right now without like your full faculties or some kind of
Sure.
further investigation.
Sure. And I think it would be interesting, if you don't mind my saying.
Hmm?
But I think she's still in the form. She's still in the panther form. And she instinctually has that need to clean. But she has this god blood on her.
Yeah.
So
Um,
I give you permission to play.
uh, yeah, I mean, it's tempting to say this is tempting fate, but I think maybe it's just, yeah, maybe it brings back some kind of memory, I think. once I think you're cleaning yourself and all of this God's blood is entering your system, and
Hmm.
there seems to be some kind of residual memory here, and specifically given the God's last moments about Wall, about her homeland, and it looks like what you remember from your childhood is gone because your people forsook this, if that's a word,
Hmm.
forsaked this god and drove them out, made them homeless, and it cursed your people to lose their home, to invite other gods to ravage it, to take it as they wished.
Wow. I think sinking into that memory as she's cleaning and all this kind of stuff, I think, she's into the memory. And then once she's out of it, I think she's fully back to herself, like on the rooftop. And then you see a tear fall down her cheek in remembering that because it's like it was a vicious turnaround. Like, play upon each other. You force me out, I will force you out by bringing upon you your enemies, kind of thing. And there's tears coming from her eyes, but um, she doesn't see it, but I think the camera will. Part of her tears has that shimmering oil like blood in them.
Okay.
Amazing.
So once you descend back to the streets, what do you think? Where do we think we see Wall next?
I mean, can she descend from this particular rooftop? I mean, does she have
Ye-
to go through some place or what have you?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think the way we described it was most of the other houses were, one or two stories max.
Uh huh.
So it's not like you're at the top of a high tower. You're
Okay.
just, um, and again, because everything is so like relatively even, it's not like anyone, obviously on the street they can see you come down from a rooftop or come down an external stairs or something like that. So it's
Okay.
not, um, I don't think it's particularly dangerous. Like, and again, unless you're in the tower, you're not like looking down on
Okay.
uh, anyone's rooftop necessarily.
Could she tell from where the bells were coming from? Was that like from a place where a lot of people gathered, or was it just a not for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee kind of thing where it just happens and there's nothing surrounding it? You know what I mean? Like,
Um,
was there any kind of ceremony?
yeah, I think you can tell that it came from the same tower as the gibbets were hanging from. So whatever place in this kind of um, execution that this tower has, it's kind of um, the whole cycle of it appears to take place there.
Hmm. Well, I think she's going to present herself to the tower and then see what it's all about. This is the time for questions, and she will present herself as the scribe that she is, and like see if they need anybody to you know help write anything down, record anything. So.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so yeah, I think um there's whereas before that kind of square around this tower was, you know, very normal, very like every other place you passed, busy and whatever. Now there seems to be, it's not quite a party atmosphere, but like the powers that be have been giving out drinks and bread, for anyone in celebration of this uh, god killing. Um, and there is, a few workmen reassembling or repairing this cage and gibbet. Um, um, and I think so. You like walk up and there's like some functionary um, who basically you walk up and he hands you a half loaf of bread and a glass or a cup of wine because that's what everyone else is wanting.
And she says to them, "Thank you. Thanks. I'm new in this city. Uh, what is this about? What are we celebrating?"
Uh, the execution of one of the tyrant gods who has beset us all.
Oh, okay. Um, is this happen often? I mean, well, obviously, I mean, like, and she kind of waves her cup over at the other cages. But how are you capturing all of these, and making sure that they're dispatched?
Yeah, the masters of the city have their ways and means.
Do you know? I don't know. Is there anyone that I can talk to? I'm a scribe by profession, um, an illuminator. I can take records. I can make copies of different things. I don't. I was looking for work. If there was a way to make my way, make my living here in this city.
Do you have any recommendations or a proof of competence?
I'm trying to think if she brought anything of hers. I would imagine so. I mean, at least a little one, right? I mean, like, kind of like, maybe like a little chapbook of her um, illumination work, and then like of her like calligraphy or whatever the heck,
Hmm.
her copying skills and such. Um, yeah, I think she reaches into her bag, and then like we'll just kind of present. This is an example of things that I have worked on. I've made copies. I have again taken records and scribed. Um, and yeah, she presents like this little bound book of um, what she's done.
Yeah, and I think this functionary like obviously disapproves. Like his lip curls uh, at your evidence, and he goes, "You're from the cloister."
I was not aware that um, our reputation has gotten this far, but yes, that is where I've been trained.
You still hold truck with gods there.
To be honest, I left because I did not agree with the gods they worshipped, consorted with, whichever. She just kind of like lowers her head down to the ground, like kind of looking a little shamefaced and just kind of sorry. But no, I have received my training there, but I am no longer associated with the cloisters, which is why I made my way here. I came with uh, the tradesman, Tiresias. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
I've never heard of them. Um, I think this kind of mix of, you know, uh, what, like contrition and humility and whatever else is kind of exactly what minor functionaries need to to look at you in a new light. And he says, "Well, I'm sure we could find some use for you, seeing as you've seen the error of your order's ways." Um, well, you should come back tomorrow, and once the celebrations is over, uh, we can we can see what you can do.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I definitely will. Um, uh, this time tomorrow or in the morning?
In the morning.
Okay.
Uh,
My name is Wall. Who am I speaking with?
a different functionary will receive you tomorrow.
I thank you. I thank you for this chance. I will definitely return tomorrow and uh, seek what employment I can. And I appreciate it. Thank you. Have a good celebration.
So, enjoy.
Thank you. And she just kind of like raises the cup and then just like, like walks away with the bread and the wine. Like, okay.
Okay. So
And then
that's
she, I guess, will meet
yeah,
like Tiresias with the.
yeah. You wouldn't know what kind of a day I've had.
Yeah, right?
Um, how about we take a quick break?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I don't know, where do you want to pick this up? Do you want to go back to the inn, have some kind of downtime, or do
Yeah.
we just fast forward back to the next morning, your interview or whatever?
I don't know, right? I mean, like, I wouldn't mind going back to the inn and seeing if there's anything that, I don't know, she and Tiresias could say to each other. I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, let's find out, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, Now when you show back up, I guess you look like you've had a hell of a day, right?
Yeah. I mean, like, I think she's. I mean, how big is it? Is it something that she can hold in her bag again? I mean, the thing that she got from the.
Um, yeah, I mean that bag's getting full now, huh?
Yep.
Of
Which is
of
actually laughable because it's like, she just seems to be collecting helmets or or reasonable facsimiles thereof.
yeah. So um yeah, plus you have this key pendant thing, right? From
Hmm.
Edmund, right?
Yep.
So don't forget that. Yeah, I mean, I guess it kind of fits, but right, you have this kind of a half a, let's call it a face, with this antler coming out and this kind of pattern in it. So it's it's not that bulky, but maybe the antler is a bit of an issue, right? It's maybe poking out of the corner of the bag, right?
Right. Um, It's my souvenir. um, and the thing that I got from the Orphan Maker, was it again a piece of their helmet from an avatar or something? Or
Yeah, so this we described as like kind of a full face made of like so like a chamfron, which is like horse armor
ah,
for the
right.
face, which means it's quite large, right? So it's, um, yeah, pretty large, um, and of this kind of obviously bone-like material, and these kind of eye bulges and so on. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how large we envisage this satchel is, but bigger than just this,
Yeah.
like maybe messenger size bag, right?
Yeah, maybe
Uh,
maybe for that, maybe she left that particular doodad, like, with Teresa saying, it's like, please hold this for me. This is something that I want to keep. Um, and yeah, maybe she meets him at the inn and tries to describe her a bit of her day. um, maybe he says something witty like, you know, look what the cat dragged in or something.
um, yeah, yeah. I think he like sees the state you're in and kind of, sits you down at the table and calls someone over to bring you some food. Um, and maybe he says something like that, or like you get in some kind of a cat fight. um,
Funny you should say that.
I should see the other guy, right?
This is where she kind of drags over her bag and then kind of like opens up the flap and says, yeah.
Right. Um, are you like looking to shock him, or is this just, coming out with the full extent of the trouble you got into today? Is this like Wall just being forthrightly honest,
Yeah, I think
or
so. I mean,
yeah?
what else does she have, right? Because I mean, before it wasn't like she could really share this this crap with anybody, but she feels like, at least now, she feels like Tiresias, you know, knows her and knows that she wouldn't exaggerate or be
Mhm.
um lie about it.
Uh-huh.
I mean, she trusts him enough to be able to say, I don't know what to make of this.
What
And
is
I think
that?
this is a god that they apparently here they kill gods. This one wasn't quite dead. Or I don't know.
Yeah, they hang them in the
Yeah.
cages,
Yeah, I know. I know. I
and you killed one in the cage.
it's weird. And then she goes on to explain, like, what she did, like she reached out to touch the arm or whatever, and then she got drawn into the cage, turned into the cat, which then turned into the panther, and then she said, like, she pretty much tore apart the body, in her cat form, in her panther form, and then broke the cage open and then ran away with this thing. And yeah, I grabbed this, and yeah, I just had this weird vision, like as if I recognized this god. Not from here, not from one of the illuminations that I'd done. Although I had. It was a weird tale of where it was from and who it affected. But I felt like I had been scared by this god before when I was a little girl. Which is weird because I thought I thought I'd been at the cloisters for my whole life. And I'm only now starting to realize, Tiresias, that I don't think that's true.
I mean, sounds like something you would have wanted to forget, right? As a
Yeah,
kid.
yeah. I mean, I should be glad, right? I mean, like one of the terrors of my childhood is taken out. But there's a many of them there. I didn't even count the amount of gibbets that I saw when I was over by that tower. Seems like there are a bunch of god killers here. Oh, and then when I went to get the celebratory bread and wine, she holds up her souvenirs, they were saying how, or I was asking about a job, a scribe, and when they saw what my chapbook, they saw my work, they immediately got uh, disdainful of it.
Snooty? They got snooty, right?
Yeah, they got okay. All right, yes, they got snooty, and they were saying like you know, about my work at the cloisters, you know, believing in all the gods, worshiping those gods, and I said, not really, no, because I left. I didn't want to worship those gods. This is confusing. I think this is the first time that I've really come upon a place where they don't they don't want those gods anymore.
I guess that's how the wizards get their power, right?
Yeah, I mean it makes sense, right? I mean they why compete with gods when you can kill them and then siphon off what you need, right?
Yeah, yeah. The I don't know what they call it, the elixir of the divine.
You think they actually drink that stuff? They distill it and make it?
And who knows what they do? But
I may get a chance to find out. I was talking with the one functionary, and he said to come back in the morning and see about, I guess, finding a job.
yeah, yeah.
I owe you a lot. That's what I'm trying to do, to try and pay you back.
Take your time. Take your time.
I do appreciate,
You
I,
can buy dinner next time, right?
I hope so. I hope so. She just like smiles at him and just kind of raises her cup. Yeah, she's a slow drinker, so she's like, "What about you? How's it been going?"
Uh, selling, bargaining, bit of re setting up some new purchases. Yeah, yeah. It's going all right.
Does this mean you're going to be leaving soon?
Uh, usually takes like 2 or 3 days to get everything sorted. So yeah, 2 or 3 days.
Okay. I mean, I'm going to pay you back. Maybe not all before you leave, but, when I can.
Yeah, it's really no trouble. You're like next time I come back, uh you'll have some savings.
hopefully, and not be out on the street or something like that. I don't know if it means anything though, with the vision I had about that one god. This god. Um, and she's referring to the thing in her pack. Um, do you think it's worthwhile to try to warn somebody about the wolf's heads coming?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, not here anyway. Like,
Right.
what are they gonna say?
I don't know. I mean, the wolf's heads are actually driven by a particular god. Maybe these people will be good enough to deal with them and take the wolf's head's god out too. I don't know.
I guess you gotta feel it out, right?
Right.
When you'll probably figure it out pretty quickly if they've made their own minds up about things. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think
I
she's
mean,
like contemplating, like, like just looking into her cup and eating the bread and whatever for dinner, and then, she can get some rest before the next morning. I think, though, before she goes back to the that particular tower, I think she does want to pray for guidance, regardless of the one of what the functionary said. It's like
hmm.
she does believe, maybe not in particular, but she has faith. So yeah, I think she wants to pray for guidance.
what
Amen. Yeah, no, I'm trying to
what
figure
is
out what
the aid you
age.
seek?
Does she warn them about the wolf's head? Or see if she can help her against the orphan maker? I mean, it's a long shot, either way. So I think she wants to know, like, what she should do here in the City of Towers. So either get their help against the orphan maker, or see if it's worthwhile to try and warn them against the wolf's head who work for the orphan maker.
So do you want to answer what kind of god or the omens or visions part?
I don't want to answer either one.
Which do you want me to answer then?
Oh gosh, I would like you to answer the um yeah, um hmm. You know what? I think I'm going to answer the unclear omens or visions. I think as she takes her rest and she kind of poses that question to herself before she goes fully to sleep. She has her hands behind her head on the pillow, I don't know if it's a thing where like Tiresias was able to parlay like getting her a separate room, or if she's on the floor of of his uh, his room, whatever. Um, but she kind of poses the question within and says, "Is it worth it to ask for help to take out the orphan maker, or to warn them about the wolf's head, who are the orphan maker's pawns?" And as she lays down to sleep and her eyes close, I think, again, it's one of those inward visions where it's darkness and then goes through everything she's gone through so far. And she sees the wolf's head laying a swath through the city of towers, but not for the people in power. Because of the nature of how this place is built, they're sweeping through the common folk. They're sweeping through the merchants. They're sweeping through the noisy, dusty streets and just making their presence known. And part of this vision is seeing them try and penetrate the higher towers, which they like the the angle like switches as if it's more of a above shot, and the wolf's heads turn from like an invading human army into little ants that seem to be going through a maze of blocks and squares. And then there's this vision of it going dark, this shadow crossing over the whole thing, and then part of that shadow becomes deep within one of the orphan maker's eye bulges, and then shines just in this deep, dark void that seems very cold, very empty, and just of a child left crying in the dust with the shadow of a parent or guardian leaving them. And that is the extent of her vision.
I think the voice that you hear framing this vision is one you recognize, that of the Mage Eater. And she tells you that the only or she shows you that the only force that could destroy the Orphan Maker is the wizards, and vice versa. If you if you feel like the sacrifice of the common people is palatable, then that is an approach you could take.
I think in this dream, if she is speaking with the. Is it just a voice that she hears, or is she actually seeing like a silhouette or a vision of the Mage Eater answering her?
Um, yeah, I think it's a voice you hear, and then um, I think you feel something in the bed beside you. the coils of a serpent. Um, and it plunges its fangs into your leg. And yeah, I think that wakes you up.
Sure, absolutely.
Um, but I think you still hear the Mage Eater's voice in your head, when you wake up. Um, and she says, or she tells you, if you really want to kill the Orphan Maker, you must make great sacrifices.
Me, though. It should be me, not other people, to be laid upon the killing fields in the Orphan Maker's wake. That's. No. I can't. That's what's happened before with all the other places the Wolf's Head has been. They shouldn't suffer. They shouldn't pay. They shouldn't be sacrificed to take out the god.
Then find someone else who counts as a great sacrifice.
Yeah, I think, besides, like, hopefully a wordless scream, because I can just imagine, like, Wall waking everybody up. I feel like she breaks out in a sweat after hearing that and just kind of lays her head in her hands. Um, because that doesn't seem right. I mean, she didn't ask the Mage Eater. It's like, why not her servants? Why not her wizards? Or is that what she was saying? It's like, just let the wolf's head run amok and invade while her mage eaters or her worshippers will band together against the Orphan Maker. Oh, she's taking that badly. That makes her angry. Because the vision, if she's interpreting it in the way Wall would interpret it, it makes it seem like so the wizards don't have to worry about the hoi polloi. Let the wolf's heads come and bring the Orphan Maker with them, and then they'll take out the god. Yeah, that that does not sit right with Wall whatsoever. Because those people came here for safety.
Yeah.
They came here asking for refuge. And they are to be the sacrifice upon which the Mage Eater and her servants will act? No. Wall does not like that one damn bit. But she'll still go. She'll ready herself. She'll do a quick wash or whatever. Maybe she did pack another set of robes just to be able to hide different things that were in her
Hmm.
back in the first place. So maybe she will change into more, you know, uh, cleaner robes, and she will present herself down at that tower.
Um, what do you think? So I presume these are, something from the cloister, right? Um, what do you think now that you're wearing these and now that you've seen the robes of this uh, other order, um, what do you see as the stylistic differences that tell you, you know, how different they are?
Between the cloister robes and yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, well, one, the Mage Eater's worshippers' main decoration is all the snakes. There's the motif is rampant along the edges of their robes. Maybe the jewelry also kind of gives hints at serpentine coils and designs. Um, whereas the
So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
just to interrupt, right, um, I think what we saw before in terms of the connection between the Mage Eater and the wizards is like this inimical relationship, right? That the wizards had thrown out the Mage Eater's
Ah, okay.
scion, that was Edmund, and there's definitely no. I mean, maybe there are stylistic similarities between the two, which is
Mm-hmm.
interesting, but you know, the the wizards who hold power here in the city are not worshippers of the mage
Oh,
eaters.
okay.
But yeah,
Yeah. Sorry, it's like I should have known. Duh. Um, Interesting. Okay, that puts a different spin on it. Hold on a second. Let me think about that for a second. So Mage Eater is saying that the people in the streets are needed to be a sacrifice for the wizards to go up against the orphan maker. Yeah? Is that
well, that's one possibility, right? Unless you find a different sacrifice. Um,
But if the wizards are no friends of the Mage Eater, what is oh I guess I'm trying to figure out now because I mean I misunderstood, so I apologize. So we just need to back this up half a second as I try to figure this out in a meta manner that makes sense. So Mage Eater was with Edmund, and the wizards threw him out or deposed him.
yeah,
Okay, and then the wizards are working for whom? Or oh no, they're killing all the gods. Duh.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, but the Mage Eater is saying that the wizards can definitely go up against the orphan maker. But the wolf's head has to be allowed to lay waste to the city and the refugees and the common people therein. Wow, Mage Eater's playing some serious ass weirdness. um it just seems weird. I mean, she's mulling over this before she goes over, I think. I think did Edmund say any particular place in the city that he thought there might be still friends? of his regime. And regime just sounds awful, but I couldn't think of what else to call
Yeah.
it.
So the way he described the key, the pendant, was that this will get you into kind of the heart of, you know, the the corridors of power. Not necessarily that there was friends there, but getting here would allow you to do some serious stuff, right?
Interesting.
Um,
But he didn't say specifically go here and then
yeah,
show the
yeah.
pendant. Shit.
Um, I mean that's certainly something that you could figure out. Is there like a loyalty um faction still in the city?
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. Okay. So, all right. So she will obviously not bring the helmet or the the orphan maker uh, mask, but she will bring the pendant. She'll hide it deep within her robes, and she will go to the place as expected, making herself presentable and such. Um, I'm just trying to think if there's. I feel like okay, so the cloisters again, scribing, illuminating, and such. Perhaps they have robes of color and design, just to reflect like many influences, that are around them and that they've collected over the years. Whereas there is some bit asceticism, I guess, with the wizards of this particular city because they do not align themselves with any of the gods. They consider themselves above them or, you know, confident in their own abilities, needing nothing of the river, I guess. And so, yeah, I mean, like maybe they're just plain colors, dull colors. Maybe there is a hierarchy with them. So colors of black and brown and beige. Black and brown and gray, sorry. To kind of indicate like what level they're at or something. Um, yeah. So I think that's the difference. It's like, maybe she's in a maybe she's in robes of pale blue or something with like kind of decoration at the edges, whereas their robes are like almost seem to swallow color.
mm,
I mean swallow light, especially those in black. So,
okay.
yeah.
Um,
Thank you for clarifying that whole
yeah,
thing because I was just
yeah,
like, wait a second, I think I'm mixed up. Got it.
yeah. Yeah, it's my fault for throwing a curveball when I said, you, you know, who might give you that vision, and how is this not as expected or somewhat confusing? But yeah, too confusing.
Yeah. No, it's
Um,
fine.
yeah, so you're shown into this corridor, and there are these, terribly uncomfortable wooden chairs in this corridor, um, at the base of this tower. Um, and eventually this robed person uh, emerges, and you're the only one on these chairs. There's no like There's 5 or 6 chairs here, but you're the only one. Um, they say, I'm Uriel. I understand you were a scribe,
Yes.
forsaking their beliefs to take on the true way.
Yes. I have not been satisfied with life at the cloister, especially for what I've seen and how the gods have taken what they've wanted or just lain waste with not a care in the world. And I've made my way here and seeking work. I do have abilities. I have been trained. I understand that where I came from is not looked well upon here. I understand that, but I do have skill, and I would like to use those skills towards gainful employment if I can. I am
Your
Wall.
past beliefs were at some stage shared by many here. Your willingness to abandon them is what's important.
Yes. Yes.
And they turn and, you know, you're they don't beckon or anything like that. I think you just assume you have to follow.
Hmm.
Uh, and they go up several stairs, several floors, um, to end up in a room. And there is a font in the middle. Um, and they beckon you over to it. Seems to be full of water. There is a depression. The water is kind of lapping against this section, and they bid you to put your hand in, along this depression and into the water.
Okay.
We must judge you.
And I am just to put my hand in this water then.
It is simple.
Yes. Is this a do as I might do as I'm told?
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, I mean, like, I willing to do this. If I have to kneel down and put my hand in this water, it's like I will. Um, perhaps, perhaps the vulnerability is maybe the vulnerability is she just blurts out almost as if it's like a truth serum or something like that when she touches it. Maybe she blurts out that she does not believe the gods have good interests at heart towards humans. And that is why I can be and I can, and I am a god killer. Maybe that's one of the things that she mutters, you know, like without even being asked or, necessarily bidden from her lips or anything like that. It just comes out. And that's the vulnerability she reveals. I'm never sure like exactly how that's meant to be. How that's meant to be taken. It's like I'm not bearing my neck out for anybody, you know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
but I mean she does say this like out loud so they can hear.
Yeah, and I think Uriel is like staring at you from across the other side of the font. Um, and you feel in the water it um like when you put your hand in, it's like lapping just uh underneath your palm and slightly coming up your fingers, and you feel it go cold, icy cold underneath your hand. And you can feel the nerves, the tingling that has been with you since Little Slaughter eases. This sensation, these kind of pins and needles that have been with you for months now, suddenly gone.
And she actually kind of like laughs like that kind of like, you know, laugh of disbelief kind of thing and just like in relief.
Hmm.
I mean, that's something that they can see for sure.
Hmm.
That the relief on her face of like, like, and she's actually moving her hand in the water. Like, I've regained control. It doesn't feel prickly anymore. But she does this in the water. Like, she doesn't take her hand out or
Hmm.
anything like that
Yeah.
unless they tell her to. So,
And Uriel says, "You can join us, not as a scribe, but as a champion of our cause.
a champion.
We will expunge the gods from this land, expunge every last drop of divine blood.
So there's no belief
Will you
anywhere.
will you swear to that, or would you wish to be a simple scribe?"
They have not told her to take her hand out, have they?
No.
No. I mean, and she leaves her hand in the water because, I mean, like, she's contemplating it and she just speaks out loud. And maybe this is a mistake, but she just speaks out loud. I have killed at least 3 gods so far. I believe in most of what you say. But I have also known gods that have been benevolent and helpful. And she's thinking of Dog's Tooth, which she says, and some downright funny. I Life is what is important, not wasted, not inconsidered. You mean to expunge every last bit of divine blood, but how can we tell if those that seem human don't have some measure of that divinity within them? And she's like, not even, she's thinking it's a possibility, but she's not willing to like think in her own head that it might be her too,
Hmm.
especially after imbibing what's his face's blood, and then
Yeah, yeah.
also, everything else that's gone on. It's like there might be a possibility the reason I can do this is because I have divine blood too. So if it happens that I, who can champion you, have divine blood myself, does that mean you will come after me too?
By their deeds do we know them, the gods. They compel others to worship them.
I don't
Through
want them
fair
to.
means or foul, they compel people.
Do you think I was able to do that? Kill them by virtue of mine own magic? Or because I have the possibility of that divine blood within me?
You might ask the same of the masters of this city.
What of the ones that don't compel? What of the ones that have been helpful? That have been, again, benevolent and just not harming?
Benevolent to you for their own purposes.
Comes back down to intent, then. I, who may have some of this divine blood within me, I don't want anyone to worship me. I just want to take. I want to mete out some justice. There is a specific God I have.
Then let us make it four.
I will only kill if they move against the mortals, against the mundane, against the humans. I believe in life. Is that acceptable? Or shall I be that simple scribe?
We will bear your terms in mind.
And not a promise in sight. What would you have me do?
take your arm out of the water. And I think as you take it out, you can see this, um, like the surface of the water is now shimmering with that kind of that same shimmering blood from the heart. We must give you robes befitting your new station, and we must seek out this god of yours.
They may come quite sooner than we think. They have dogs' bodies in the form of an army meant to invade, out to kill all parents and guardians, to leave orphans in their wake that they can add to their forces. I am set against the Orphan Maker. And the Orphan Maker's minions, the Wolf's Head, mean to invade this place quite soon. Who do I tell? Who do I warn?
Um, and I think you see now a mezzanine above you, a row of robed figures standing all the way around, staring down at you.
Have you been here the whole time? They will plow through the people. They will plow through the refugees and all of those that are established here. Will you let them? Or will you fight?
Um, Sounds to me like you're challenging someone dangerous.
Sure. Sure. Because why not? Alright. Audience, without risky action, hope they'll take and roll 2d6. I mean, risky action? Fighting against the oncoming Wolf's Head and the Orphan Maker. They care about your opinion. I have no idea. um, yeah,
Um,
I actually don't know like how true any of this stuff is.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just
yeah.
spitting my
I
mouth
mean,
out.
yeah, I mean,
Care about your opinion. They think they're stronger than you, and the crowd is on your side. Ooh.
do they care about your opinion? I think as a self-evident god killer,
Mm,
it seems like a um an opinion worth listening to. Obviously, arrogant wizards think they're stronger than you.
sure. Okay.
Um, Crowd on your side. So like everyone else here, maybe the lesser wizards, the functionaries, and so on. Um,
Because their ass is on
They,
the line too, you know? So,
yeah, yeah. I mean, is it? It can't be that they think that they can be as callous as you fear about the lives of everyone in the city, right?
yeah.
So, yeah, yeah. Um,
+3?
+3, I guess.
Okay. It'll be great. It'll be great. Okay. Because I do want to ask the vagabond question in this wonderful company in a minute.
Okay, yeah.
Like, but I just want to see the results of this particular role because it's gonna be, it'll be hilarious. Okay. Oh boy. 3 + 1 is 4 + 3. Amazing. What?
Okay, okay.
7. Oh.
Yeah. So your one figure, um, maybe maybe not in this uh not in this kind of gray to charcoal gray range, maybe in something like you said that's brighter and more powerful, um stands out, and their eyes glint at you, and indeed we are we are champions of humanity. We must stand against them and not be tempted to assure victory by entrapping them where they cannot win.
You do understand that this god is fueled by all the orphans that their human minions make, either killing off or driving off their parents, their guardians, leaving them alone. I don't necessarily know what will take out the orphan maker, but their human minions are driven before them to feed their power. I'm also a champion of humanity, but not the humans that serve this void, this darkness. Are you all willing to do that? To go up against their, I hate to say it, but their battle fodder? The wolf's heads, as heinous as some of their acts have been, I don't think they realize they are just, they are just fuel. They are just fueling this empty vacuum of a god. They think they grow in numbers, but I think each one is a lonely child. And when she says that, it's like she gets a thump in her heart and her stomach when she says it, but she doesn't necessarily know why. And she just, I initially wanted to wipe out the wolf's heads just as much as the orphan maker, but I think the wolf's heads are the orphan maker's victims. And in that way, that is why the orphan maker deserves to die.
Well, 'Cause, Let's prepare something to tempt them out. We
And
will
this is where I'm.
begin, but you must look for a worthy weapon to slay this god.
Worthy weapon. How do you strike at a void? How do you. How do you pierce something that is so hungry that it doesn't realize it is? Do you have records here? Do you have ways that you've defeated these other gods? These other gods that you've hung on the gibbets? I need every piece of information that I can to see if there's any legends or myths, even stories, that can help me in this.
You will find every god is different in their doom. But perhaps we have something that can aid you. So I wonder if we have homework for next week.
Okay.
I need to mull this one over.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
That's fine. I'm happy with that. Although
yeah,
I do want to
yeah.
ask the one question, I do want to ask the vagabond question before we end,
Oh, yeah, yeah. Go first.
which is what aren't they telling me?
Uh,
Or is that your homework too?
no, no, that's a good question.
Okay, okay.
Um, so I think, so I think you can see that their idea for this temptation, this trap, is some kind of sacrifice from within their numbers, some kind of dangerous ritual that will force the Alpern Maker to act. But there's something in there, some other sting in the tail. Um, and you don't know if that is something, I mean, it's something about you for sure, but whether it's you or just something from your past or someone close to you, that will be the cherry on top of that trap.
Got it. I mean, automatically, Wolf suspects they know something about her that she doesn't know or she doesn't remember. So there's that back of the mind thing. It's like, you're willing to work with me, but, I want to know what you know.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Okay.
Alrighty. So you know
So
what your homework
let's,
is.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's stop the recording and do our debrief.